What if I told you that Ferrari's 2026 car is already being designed specifically for one driver over the other? That the technical fixes they promised would solve everything have actually made the car worse? And that their radical new engine project could either save them or trigger a multi-year setback worse than anything we've seen before? The data from Ferrari's 2025 season tells a story the team doesn't want you to hear. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this Italian giant is facing its biggest crisis in years. Ferrari entered 2025 with dreams of championship glory. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, two of the sport's biggest names, were supposed to deliver titles. Instead, according to motorcyclesports.net, the season has turned into an absolute nightmare with no race wins, poor strategy decisions, and a car that consistently lacks pace compared to rivals. After FP2 in Australia and maybe Monaco qualifying, Ferrari has had almost no sessions where they looked genuinely fast. The competitive edge they showed in those brief moments, it faded faster than anyone expected. But here's where it gets interesting. The numbers reveal something crucial. Despite having two of the best drivers on the grid, Ferrari is barely holding on to P3 in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull, with Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson for 2 races, is breathing down their neck. Think about that for a second. One team has arguably the most stacked driver lineup of the season, the other had a rookie filling in, and they're separated by a handful of points. That tells you everything about how badly this car is underperforming. According to motorsportweek.com, the technical problems stem from poor ride height management and stiff rear suspension, causing excessive wear to the floor and instability. But there's more to this story. RacingNews365.com reports that Ferrari made a critical decision early in the season. They paused aerodynamic upgrades for months to focus entirely on suspension development. While Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes continued evolving their aero packages, Ferrari stood still. The result? They fell further behind with every race. The real question is, why did Ferrari prioritize suspension over aero when the entire grid was locked in an aerodynamic arms race? Technical director Loïc Serra, who joined from Mercedes according to motorsport.com, made the call to focus on fixing the rear suspension first. The logic seemed sound. Fix the mechanical platform, then optimize the aerodynamics around it. But as italpassion.fr reports, the upgrades that were supposed to solve everything, the floor updates, the rear suspension revisions, they failed to deliver meaningful improvements. The chassis remains fundamentally flawed. Here's what makes this even more concerning. The car is incredibly sensitive to track conditions. As discussed on the Scuderia Ferrari Reddit community, when track temperatures drop or wind conditions change, the SF25 falls apart completely. Meanwhile, their rivals have much wider operating windows. Ferrari shows up to a race weekend competitive on Friday, then, by qualifying, they're nowhere. By Sunday, they're racing in the midfield. But there's another layer to this crisis that nobody's talking about enough. The driver dynamic. Charles Leclerc prefers a car with a slippery rear end, something he can rotate aggressively through corners. Lewis Hamilton, as he's stated himself and reported across multiple sources, needs a stable platform to maximize his braking performance and tire management. According to the original video transcript, Hamilton has even said he feels insufficiently supported, and that the current driving style required by the car simply doesn't work for him, causing him to ruin his tires in races. And here's the controversial part. Multiple sources, including information from the original video transcript, suggest the 2026 car is being designed more specifically around Lewis Hamilton's driving style. So what happens to Charles Leclerc, who's been the faster of the two drivers this season? Does Ferrari risk alienating their established star to accommodate the 7-time world champion? The politics inside Maranello must be absolutely brutal right now. The timing of this decision is significant because Ferrari has a history of getting this wrong. In 2022, their aggressive upgrade path made the car worse, not better. In 2024, they had similar fundamental issues that took months to partially resolve. And now in 2025, according to ScuderiaFans.com, team principal Fred Vasseur is reportedly under pressure as internal frustrations grow over the lack of improvement. But wait, because the stakes get even higher when you look at what Ferrari is planning for 2026. According to a detailed YouTube analysis, Ferrari's 2026 engine project is one of the most aggressive technical gambles in recent Formula One history. They're developing an extremely compact power unit with revolutionary manufacturing techniques using 3D printing and direct metal laser sintering. The cylinder heads feature a new aluminum alloy mixed with copper and ceramics to withstand much higher pressures and temperatures. The goal? Run the engine harder and hotter to produce more consistent power while enabling smaller radiators and tighter side pods for maximum aerodynamic efficiency. It's inspired by Mercedes' no side pod philosophy from 2022. You know, the design that didn't work. Here's what the data suggests could happen. If Ferrari nails this concept, they could have a powerful, compact, aerodynamically efficient package that dominates the new regulations. But there's a massive risk. The same YouTube analysis points out that early reports indicate issues with cylinder heads failing under extreme pressures and temperatures. Ferrari has a documented history of engine reliability problems when pushing performance limits. Remember 2022? Engine failures cost them multiple race wins and possibly a championship challenge. The pattern is becoming hard to ignore. Ferrari makes aggressive technical bets, runs into fundamental problems, spends months trying to fix them, falls behind the development curve, then starts the cycle again with the next car. It's been happening since 2022. What makes 2026 even more critical is the regulation change. The floor, which has been Ferrari's biggest problem area for years, becomes less important. But as the original video transcript asks, what about the bad strategy calls, the inefficient setup work, the lack of accountability? Those problems don't disappear with new regulations. According to Formula1.com's technical analysis, Ferrari attempted to recruit additional aerodynamic expertise, including efforts to bring in Adrian Newey, but those moves didn't materialize. With technical director Loïc Serra under pressure to deliver results and Ferrari's aerodynamic leadership depth in question, the foundation for 2026 looks shakier than the team would like to admit. For Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, this has to be incredibly frustrating. Two drivers operating at the highest level, stuck in machinery that can't compete. Leclerc has been with Ferrari long enough to know this pattern. For Hamilton, who left Mercedes specifically to chase an 8th world championship with Ferrari, this season must feel like a warning sign of what's to come. The evidence points to a team caught between addressing immediate problems and gambling everything on a radical 2026 concept. They're running out of time to get the current car competitive while simultaneously betting their future on an engine design that could either revolutionize their performance or trigger reliability nightmares that set them back years. So, where does this leave Ferrari? The most revealing part comes when you connect all these threads. A flawed 2025 car they can't fix. Driver dynamics creating internal tension. A 2026 project that's high risk and high reward, leadership under pressure, failed recruitment efforts, and a pattern of technical decisions that haven't paid off for 3 consecutive seasons. The real question isn't whether Ferrari can turn it around. It's whether they're willing to acknowledge the deeper organizational issues that keep producing these cycles of hope and disappointment. Because right now, all signs point to 2026 being another gamble in a long line of gambles that haven't paid off the way Maranello hoped. What do you think? Can Ferrari break this cycle, or are we watching the beginning of another multi-year struggle for the sport's most iconic team? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see how this plays out, make sure you're subscribed because this Ferrari story is far from over.